Welcome to Lesson 1.4 Continued. The objectives for this lesson were to apply new vocabulary, to determine the midpoint of a line segment, and to use construction tools to copy a segment, copy an angle, bisect a segment, and bisect an angle. So we're going to work on that last objective right now. The 8 basic geometric constructions are to copy a line segment, copy an angle, bisect a line segment, bisect an angle, construct a perpendicular line, a parallel line, an isosceles triangle, and an equilateral triangle. With those 8 basic constructions, you can make lots of shapes. Okay, so let's start with the first one. The first one is copy a segment. All right, now before we get started, you need to know what the tools are for copying a segment or copying any figure using instructions. So I'm going to pause for a moment. So what we're doing is a construction. A construction requires a straight edge. It doesn't need to be a ruler. It just needs to have something that has a straight edge on it like this. I can use a piece of paper. I can use the edge of a book. It doesn't matter. We're also going to use a compass. There's lots of different compasses. So this is the compass that we have in school. It's the old style one. You can buy one at a dollar store. This is a compass. So you may see these in the building. Some other teachers may have them, and I can show you how to use those. All right, so we're going to copy a segment. These are the steps over here to copy a segment, and we're going to do the steps over here. So you can follow along as I'm going here and read it. It's really hard to read, I apologize, but I'll walk you through it. Now to copy a segment, you could take your ruler and just measure it, but then it wouldn't be a construction. So I'm going to start by drawing myself a segment, and I'm going to call this segment A, B. And I want to copy that segment. And I want to copy it in another location. So I'm going to draw the place where I want to copy it. So I want to copy it here. So step 1, on this line, I have to give myself a place that I'm going to start. So I'm going to take that point A and I'm going to copy it down here. And I'm going to call it A prime. So whenever I copy a point, a line, whatever, we're just going to refer to it as the prime because it's a copy of that. All right, so now I'm going to take my compass and I'm going to measure this distance up here. So I'm going to open my compass and measure from here to here. And that's how long line AB is. All right, so now I'm going to turn my paper. And I'm going to place the pointy part right there on A. And then I'm going to lean my compass down. So you can see I'm holding it almost flat to the paper. And I'm leaning it. And I'm putting pressure on where the pencil is and just dragging it across. You don't usually want to go back and forth, but I'm trying to make it dark so you can see it. So you can see where this pink line or this red line met this one. And I'm going to place a point there. And that's B prime. So we just copied a segment. I know you can say I could have used a ruler to do that. But think about when Euclidean geometry was first, when Euclid was alive, 600 BC. They didn't have rulers. They didn't have compasses. But they could copy segments using these simple tools. All right, let's come down here. I'm going to copy an angle. So the steps for copying an angle are written on the side over here, and we're going to walk through those steps. So the first thing I need to do is I need to draw myself an angle. So on the side, you're going to draw yourself an angle. Now, you can watch this video over again. I'm going to start off by labeling my point A here, which is my vertex. And I want to copy that angle. So I'm going to copy it down below. It doesn't matter how I draw it. I can draw it the same as this one right here, or I can just go straight across. It doesn't matter. I can copy it anywhere. So I'm going to draw myself a line that goes across. And again, I'm going to put my vertex right there and place A prime. So that's my first step. I gave myself a surface to copy the angle onto. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is draw an arc. So I'm going to pick up my compass and I'm going to open it. And I want to make sure that I open it big enough so that it lands on the line. I don't want to make it so big that it goes off the line. So I'm going to make it so I have a decent arc right about there. I can put it wherever I want as long as it lands on the line. Now I'm going to turn my paper. And again, I'm going to place the pointy part right there on A prime. and I'm going to draw an arc. And I want to draw it so that it's at least as wide as right here. So we're going to come up here, and I'm going to draw an arc here. So you can see I made that arc. I did not close my compass. It's the same width. Okay, so this is the distance that I just drew. I'm going to come down here on this line, and I'm going to draw the exact same arc. All right, so again, I'm just holding it like a pencil. So I'm holding, let's see if you can see. I'm holding it like a pencil right here. I'm holding this side. I'm not squeezing it, because if I squeeze touching this side over here, it's going to close it. So I'm holding it here. I'm putting my pointy part right there. I'm leaning down. And what I actually do is pull the paper. So I'm actually pulling this paper. I don't know if you can see me doing this, but I have the paper right here in my hand. And I'm pulling it and turning. So making the same arc. So it's hard to see because it's so faint, but there's the arc mark right here. All right, so I have this faint arc that goes from here to here. And it's the same one that I have going from here to here. Let's move that over so you can see it a little bit. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to measure the arc. So I'm going to open up my compass and place a point right here. And I'm going to close this thing up until it's the distance across the angle. So you see how that's the distance? So I'm measuring the angle, and I'm measuring it from this point to that point there. All right, so this is how wide my angle is. I'm going to come down here to the point where this meets here. So here's my arc, here's my line, and it meets right there. I'm going to place the pointy part right there, and I'm going to draw an arc. And my pencil is drawing very fine lines. Let's see if I can make it a little darker. You see where I drew the arc? And the way I did it was I put my compass here, and I drew an arc. I'm going to place a point there. Now I'm going to take my straight edge, and I'm going to connect this point to this point. And I just copied this angle down here. Okay, that's copy an angle. The third construction we're going to do today is to bisect a segment and find the midpoint. So the steps are here. You can see step 1, step 2, step 3. And you'll have those steps right on your paper, right above, so you can see what's going on. You're going to practice on the paper below. Now my hint to you on the paper below is that I gave you a nice big space. So if you look at the bottom of this page, there's a lot of room right there. What you want to do on the bottom of that page is you want to put your line that you're going to bisect in the middle here. You want to leave some space above, and you want to leave some space below, and you'll see in a minute why. You also don't want to make your line too long. So you'll see why in a moment. So I'm going to put a line here. So it's coming down a little bit. I have space on top. I have space below. I'm not going to make it too big. I'm going to make it about that big. And notice the distance from here to here, from where the words end. So I'm going to place a point here. I'm going to call it A. And place a point here, B. And I'm going to find the midpoint. Okay, so the way I do that, step 1, if you look at the steps up above, I open my compass. And I open it a little more than halfway. So here, it looks about halfway there. I'm going to make it a little bigger than halfway. So it's about there. So that's more than half the width of the line. And again, I'm going to make an arc mark above and below the line. So again, I'm going to turn my paper, and I'm holding this like a pencil. So you're gripping this thing just like it's a pencil. And I'm going to turn my paper. You don't want to have anything around. I just had a book that hit this. So you want to make sure you have a nice, clear, open space. So I'm going to start by putting my pencil, my pointy part right there. And above the top, I'm going to draw an arc mark. Now, I could draw it all the way through like it shows in the picture, but I really don't need it to go all the way through. But I'm going to just, so it looks the same. And I'm going to draw an arc like that. So it's like half a circle. Okay, now I'm going over to the other side. So I'm going to pick up my paper and turn it around and go over to B. Okay, I'm going to put my pencil on B. And I'm just going to put my pencil down. I'm going to come all the way down here, and I want to see where those two arcs cross. So remember, pointy part down, slanted. So I'm almost slanted right into the paper. So my knuckle right here is really close to the paper. All right, so I'm going like this. And I drew the two arc marks coming together like that. So I drew it like that. And on this side, I drew it here. Where those come together, I'm going to put a point. So the point of intersection. And I'm going to connect those two with a straight edge. This, I'm going to label it and point to it. This is called a bisector. Why? Because it is a segment that bisects this line right here. It cuts it in half. This point on AB is called the midpoint. So you just found the midpoint by constructing a bisector. So you found the middle of that line segment. The last construction you're going to do is called angle bisector. So you are going to bisect an angle. Here's the steps up here. Again, you're going to watch me do it down below. This time you don't have to worry so much about what's going on above or below. All of the work is happening inside of the angle. All right, so I'm going to draw an angle down below. Doesn't matter how I draw it, how big I draw it, how wide I draw it. There's my angle. Okay, so I'm going to label this the same as they did in the picture up above, A, C, B. Okay, and I want to bisect that angle. So the very first thing I'm going to do, again, is draw an arc. So here's my compass. I'm going to place the point here. Now I don't want it to be too big, so I'm going to pull it in about there. So I'm going to make a nice arc, not too far away from the vertex. And again, lean my pencil down and draw the arc. So I get a nice clean arc there. So what that does is it gives me the same distance here as here. So this distance right here should be the same. So if I measured that and I measured that with a compass, you can see it's the same distance. All right, so these are the 2 points I'm interested in, here and here. I'm going to make another arc in the center. How big should I make it? I need to make it big enough so that it's going to cross the center. So watch. I'm going to make an arc here. And then I'm picking up my compass and going to my other point and making an arc there. Where those two meet, I'm going to place a point. All right, so now I'm going to connect my vertex, which is C, with that point. Notice that point C is on the edge, so I'm going to grab that point and pull it this way. This angle and this angle should be the same measure now. This is an angle bisector. The measure of this angle is the same as the measure of this angle, and that's one way to show it. So this angle and this angle have the same measure. Okay, that's the construction of an angle bisector. So you should be able to play this back over if you need to and see how to do it again. So have a good evening. Ask questions tomorrow in class.